Previously on LegitStreetCars, I cleaned my garage, in preparation for removing the engine from my CL65 AMG.
Okay, stop. We're looking good. Whoa, she's out. Our twin turbo V12 is out. This is cool. All right, come on, I'll show you.
Everything went really well, so afterwards I reorganized my work area and took some time to clear my mind and meditate on top of another AMG.
AMG, I will take care of you better than Gunther Strauss, who built you 16 years ago,
in order to reconnect with my inner AMG spirit before undoing the work of the legendary Gunther Strauss, who hand-built my V12 engine 16 years ago.
Weirdo. So welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the party. In today's video, we are tearing apart my hand-built twin-turbo Mercedes AMG V12 engine in search of a part that's leaking oil. Now, this part only costs about $1, but it requires about 50 hours of labor to replace. In other words, if you brought this to a reasonable independent shop, this job would cost about $7,000 and much more at the dealer, and that's not including all of the while you're in there parts that you're undoubtedly going to find and need to replace while the engine is out, because there's a lot of stuff here that we're gonna be replacing that's not bad yet, but I don't wanna have to do this job again. Do I seriously have dirt on my nose? I am not redoing that scene, people, okay? You get dirty in the garage, it happens, yes? I also kind of chopped away part of my eyebrow. It was a mistake shaving. Now I know what you're thinking, I know what you're saying, I know what you're commenting. Alex, what a pile of garbage German engine this is. And I cannot defend this horrible factory defect that causes an oil leak that requires all of this disassembly that we're about to embark on, which I've never done before. But this is a very, very cool engine if you kind of take that out of the equation. It's been around for almost 2 decades. It's used in multi-million-dollar cars outside of Mercedes as well. But I'll talk to you about its history in another video. But for now, sit back, relax, grab a cold pop, enjoy some of this copyright-free music that I pay for every single year for my YouTube videos, and let's tear this engine down and find this defective part that's somewhere over here. All right, so I just got done taking a bunch of stuff off of this engine, which I was going to show you right now, and I will, don't worry, it's some cool stuff. I broke some things, and we have a water-cooled alternator that's probably like $12,000, so I'm gonna show you that in a minute, but first, I discovered something after taking the intake manifold off. I found something laying in there that's very interesting. Let me show you. Okay, so remember how I said the entire issue here is like a $1 O-ring that leaks oil? That is it right there. That is a picture I found off of one thread from one forum online. That was the only mention anywhere of this issue. None of my Mercedes-Benz technician friends have ever heard of this. I've never heard of this, but whatever the case may be, I bought it from Hoovy, and he said that there is an O-ring that leaks that requires the cylinder heads to come off. That's how it was diagnosed. Now, take a look at this. There is a little blue O-ring just sitting there, just hanging out. And from what I was told, the whole issue is that there's a bracket that can't be removed with the cylinder head still installed. And at the end of the line that's attached to that bracket is the O-ring, and it feeds the turbochargers with oil. Now in the diagram, this O-ring is roughly in the middle of the oil distribution block, but these aren't always super accurate. And I'm just curious if once we take the oil tubes off, we find a little O-ring at the end that could possibly be the leak. Or at the very least, I'm curious if it's a really small blue one like we found. Now we're about to find all of this out together as I'm going to crack these lines and see what I can see. But first, a moment for today's video sponsor, a past sponsor of the CL65 back in its car trek days, and that is of course Auto Tempest. So Autotempest.com is the only website you guys need to find your next car. So what they do is they combine the search results from all of the major online automotive marketplaces like eBay, Cars.com, Carvana, and TrueCar, all on one nice and organized page. And this is gonna save you guys a ton of time. It's gonna save you just about as much time as it would save me if this O-ring was on the outside of the engine and not buried deep inside. It's that good. So whether you're looking for a nice, reliable car like a Honda Civic or a project car that's really broken like a CL65 or anything in between, you're gonna love this site. And if you're an enthusiast, you're gonna love it even more because they just added Hemmings motors. They have cars and bids on there. So there's seriously no reason to go anywhere else. Autotempest.com is the place to be. I'll leave a link down below as well for you guys. So a big thanks to Auto Tempest for continuing to support automotive content creators like myself. Let's take some lines off. Let's see what happens. We got to do it anyway. Okay, so yeah, we're not going to get that lucky. I pulled off the oil lines here, and it looks to be just these two gaskets that seal those. There's no place for an O-ring to even go there. So very curious to what this blue O-ring is. I'm assuming our issue is gonna be right there, right in the middle of this little oil distribution block, and this definitely requires the cylinder heads to come off. So even if the leak was on the outside and I got away with murder, I would still be taking the cylinder heads off because I'm replacing the turbochargers. This has 135,000 miles. I just wanna make sure that everything is good to go. And look at this, a plastic vacuum canister. I mean, these lines break, they get brittle, and this looks like it requires the heads to come off too. So not the best design, but yeah, the bolts here, some of them like this one, and especially one right here, you can't get to those. Anyway, without further ado, let's get back to work. Let's find our faulty O-ring and get these cylinder heads off. Totally gonna work, no problem. May the force be with me. Okay, here we go. Woo! Oh, so close, yet so far. All this for one bolt. One bolt, people, for the AC compressor. Oh, come on. Of course, the head of this one bolt is not cooperating. I think someone probably replaced the AC compressor. They were having an issue with this bolt because you gotta jack the engine up. You just have to. Yes, yes. Turn. It's coming. Oh, thank God. This one bolt on the bottom, not only do you have to raise the engine, but it looked like it was kind of rounded off from whoever swapped out this AC compressor. I think it's got a date code of about 5 years ago. You know who you are. Yes, yes. She's out. Ooh, look at all this room. Excellent. So to take the AC compressor off, you have to jack up the engine. Don't really want to do that from the oil pan. It's much safer if you can kind of pull it up. So that is my setup right there. That is my engine support. So normally that's used to hold the engine from the top if you're lowering the subframe. And in this case, we use that in conjunction with the hydraulic lift to lift the engine off the subframe a little bit. So I just removed the lower bolts from the engine mounts. Here is one of them that definitely does not look like a Mercedes bolt. This looks like something from Ace Hardware. Wizard, wizard, Was that you? The factory bolts sometimes snap right off in the engine mount, so I've had to do this too. I just wanted to get everything off of the front so I have more access to the turbochargers, because I'm having some issues with the oil lines, and I may have to take the entire assembly off with the head. I'm not exactly sure yet. I'd like to remove the turbochargers before the cylinder heads, and they come off with the entire manifold, because these turbos, the manifold is just kind of built right into it. But anyway, I'm going to see what I can see here, and we'll keep going. Let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that surrounds this engine that needs to come apart before the cylinder heads do. I'm leaving the turbos on. I don't know if I'm gonna regret that. They're probably gonna weigh a lot. I don't know if I'll be able to take those off of myself, but take a look at where we're at before the heads come off. Okay, so these are the camshaft holding tools. So this is what you need to time the engine. So per the work instructions, we put this right here. See this mark here that says 30? We line that up right here. Cylinder 1 is at top dead center. And then if the timing chain isn't stretched, if everything's okay, these tools will go on perfectly, which they did. So this is an excellent way also to double check and make sure your timing chain hasn't stretched. These things really have no issues. So everything is good to go there. We are holding the cam. We have the sprocket off. I have marked the chain and the sprocket, so it'll all go back together properly. I may replace the chain anyway. I don't know. We'll see. But at this point, we are loosening up the cylinder heads. But we got to do this in a special order. So as you can see here, 1, 2, I don't know, wherever 3 is. So we're going to follow that. If you don't, you could run the risk of warping the head, especially on one so long. So we're just going to do this properly. So yeah, at this point, I'm going to remove all of the gigantic bolts for the cylinder head. And then we're going to see how much this whole entire assembly weighs. And then I'll show you, once I get the head off, why I'm leaving this whole entire turbo manifold madness on here. Actually, let me just show you now. The reason is it's really, really difficult to get to the nuts on the inside. Now, I know you can do this job without taking the heads off, so it's possible, but we want to make life easy. I got to take the heads off anyway. So we're going to take this off as one complete unit and cross our fingers that that was a good decision. All right, guys, I've loosened up 2 head bolts so far. I just want to show you in real time how difficult this is. If I could get any traction on the ground, that'd be nice. All right, let's see here. Oh. Okay, it's broken loose. Now I think my Big Bertha snap-on is actually skipping. I don't think all of those noises are the head bolt breaking loose, but regardless, this is going to suck. I think I have about 47 more to go, and they are tight. I don't know what the torque spec is yet. I'll let you know when we put this thing back together, but not fun, especially on such a long head like this. All right, I got all the head bolts out and my exercise for the day. Actually, no, I'm not done. I got to do this side. But this head is loose. It is almost ready to come out. Don't forget there are 2 little bolts, one here and one here, in case you're doing this job at home. And the last step, which I probably should have done first, is removing the pins for the guides. And there's actually a special Mercedes tool. This is it right here, and it threads in like this, and then you use a slide hammer at the other end, except I didn't realize you need a special Mercedes little slide hammer, so I can't really use that. But I rigged up my own little contraption. So this is just a big nut that is working as a spacer, and then we threaded in this bolt into the pin. I have a nut here, and then all we're doing is turning this. You can kind of see that little shiny pin there. Hard to catch on camera, but it is moving out as I turn this. All right, I had to move to a socket because we were bottoming out on that nut. And we're pretty much there. Here is our guide pin coming right out with no special Mercedes tool. That's it. So now we have one more to do, and this head is coming off. All right. Yep, this head is definitely loose. It's time to come off. All right, I got Eugene over here today helping me because I think this weighs about 5,000 pounds. Eugene, I don't know what we're doing, but we're just pulling up basically. And we have a turbo, which is kind of like a nice handle. Wow, that was the easiest thing in the world. I was assuming we were gonna get caught on everything. Seriously, take off the head with the turbocharger. That was like nothing. I really thought we were gonna get hung up on all these lines and everything, but I guess I did a good job. All right, so with this head off, let's pop this head gasket off as well. I can kind of take a look at this M275 engine up close and personal. Look at these tiny little cylinders. Not too bad with the carbon, 135,000 miles. Looks really nice. This thing doesn't seem to burn any oil. It starts up even after a few days, even a week or two or whatever. Doesn't blow any smoke either. Look at this. This is the worst design ever. This is plastic. It can break. You gotta take the cylinder heads off just to loosen up that bolt and one on the other side. That's it. Not cool. All right, so that head is ready to come off, and I am protecting this side because these are coated cylinders. Very, very delicate. We don't want to get anything in there at all. So I'm going to be protecting this engine the entire time. So my neighbors, they drop off bags of rags for me because they know I'm always getting dirty in here. And I don't ever know what's in the bag. And look what I just found. I live in Chicago. Any of my Chicago people out there, this is an original 91, 92, 93 NBA championship shirt. Now it's beat up, it's all stretched out and destroyed. But I don't think I'm gonna get it dirty though. I think I'm just gonna use this from now on to protect engines. So the bull is watching over the engine. Don't get me dirty. Okay, so we gotta give it a wee little gentle pry. There we go. It's the sound of success right there. Nice. Okay. All right, so this one's gonna be a little different. I couldn't get the oil line off the bottom, so we're taking it off with the oil lines. So I'm gonna basically have to muscle this one off myself. Well, Eugene guides this oil line. You see that thing? All right, we got that oil line disconnected. I'm gonna try and do this myself. Oh yeah, no problem. Oh, I can be here all day, people. No biggie. Ooh, what's up, Valves? Looking good. All right. Yeah, it's really not that light, you know, if you work out like me all the time. Let's see if I can curl this bad boy. Oh. Oh. Well, that escalated quickly. Here are all of the V12 engine parts, including the complete cylinder heads with the turbochargers. These are single overhead cam. They're not dual overhead cam. This is kind of what Mercedes-Benz was into at this time, and there are 2 spark plugs per cylinder, so 24 total spark plugs. A very, very expensive tune-up on these cars. And as you can see, the turbo is part of the manifold. So you can see right here, there's no separation between the manifold. You can undo these clamps here, but I was told by my buddy Tassos here on YouTube, I'll leave a link to his channel down below. He's one of the best engine builders around. He gave me a little tip. He's like, don't break these loose because the seals are impossible to find. Now I'm replacing the turbos, so hopefully they replace the seals. We'll find out soon as they come in. But not too much to see here. The cylinder heads are in excellent condition. The carbon buildup is not bad at all. And that is to be expected as this car ran perfectly fine. So Yeah, we have a water-cooled alternator. I still am afraid to look up how much that costs. The 24 spark plugs, our 12 fuel injectors, which I'm replacing. We have our $1,300 ABC pump. We have a very basic water pump. This is probably pretty cheap, actually. So I'm gonna replace that. Very basic intake manifold. This is the inside of the timing chain belt tensioner, and these don't really fail either. There were really no problems with the timing setup on these V12 cars, but hang on a second. Yeah, I did notice this guide. See that? This guide is cracked up. So we're gonna replace that. It wasn't showing any signs of any issues, but what happens with these is they eventually just kind of break apart. The timing chain can get loose. You can get pieces in the bottom of the oil pan. So we will definitely be taking off the front cover in the next episode and replacing a bunch of stuff in there. But for now, we got to take apart the last piece of the puzzle, and I don't know which one is a bigger design failure. I'm no engineer, but I don't see any purpose for this plastic vacuum canister to be buried underneath the cylinder heads. Here are the two bolts, one here, and you'd have to take off the heads to get to those and remove this. That is ridiculous. It's just a vacuum canister. It doesn't need to be here. Anyway, we got to take this off. And then we're taking off all of these bolts here to get this big plate. And you can see everything is just kind of a little dirty and oily. And then the oil was kind of seeping out the back as well. So anyway, without further ado, let's zip off some more bolts and find this $1 part that is causing this entire mess of a project. All right, I got Benny the Bull protecting the left bank, and we have the Muppets over here covering the right bank. And now we're gonna start undoing some bolts while I hold a camera, because that's always smart. That way you don't ever drop anything inside of the engine. Look at that. Look at how easy it is to swap out this canister. Yeah, once you take the heads off. Ridiculous. Oh no, look at this. Another secret mystery O-ring. What is going on? Look at that. It's about the same size as that blue one that we found earlier, but it's black. What? Here's a zip tie. Okay, this thing has definitely been worked on at some point before. What else are we gonna find in here? I feel like there's gonna be a note. Be a note from Günther Strauss himself, laughing, saying he made this O-ring fail. Look at this goo though. Wow. What are we gonna see, Benny? What are we gonna see in here? Maybe something that's missing a black and a blue O-ring? Yeah, that's the whole problem. There is no O-ring. The last guy didn't install it. It just took this long to leak? Yeah, no. So whenever I take bolts off, I make sure that they're all exactly the same size. And if they're not, I usually just leave them in whatever I'm taking out. Like the water pump, they're all different sizes. You think you're gonna remember later, and you'll eventually get it. You'll see which ones go where, but you'll waste a ton of time. So these are all identical. There we go. The sound of almost success. Yeah, here we go. Oh, is this an actual, oh, it's an actual gasket. And there it is. There it is. The O-ring. The O-ring of death. Oh man, okay. So part of this little chamber here is filled with coolant, and this side is oil. And here we are up close and personal with the O-ring. We gotta come up with a nickname for this guy. This will definitely be hanging somewhere in the garage at some point. But it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard. That's why it is leaking, and that's pretty typical of an older vehicle. Seals and gaskets just dry out, they get hard, the rubber is no longer rubbery, and then things start to leak. I would imagine this could be an issue as well, leaking, and could cause a coolant and oil contamination problem. So this side is coolant. We have oil here, so what happens is you get oil pressure from the engine through here, and then it goes through this tube, and then obviously it's sealed with the O-ring, so it doesn't kind of escape out, and it goes through here, exits right here, and then feeds our turbo. So this is just the turbo oil feed. And this oil leak was not that bad. In the videos that you saw, most of the leak was the ABC pump that was literally just spewing stuff everywhere. But this is pretty much it. It was starting to go along the sides here, so it would look like a rear main seal leak. And I've asked all my Mercedes-Benz technician friends that have been working at the dealer for over 20 years at this point. None of them have ever done this at the dealer, which doesn't always tell you the complete story, but they haven't seen this leak at all. They haven't written one up for it either. So, you know, this is one of those things. There aren't too many of these, especially 65 cars, but I would imagine the normal M275 and the 600s would have the same issue. But, you know, this could be one of those leaks where if they do find it at an independent and they quote them 6-7 grand, you know, it's one of those, hey, you're going to have a little bit of an oil leak. Do you want to spend 6 or 7 grand, or you just want to leave it? And most people probably just leave it. You know, I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't making YouTube videos and this was my car and I didn't work on my own car in the garage, I'd probably leave it as well. That is it, guys. This is the roughly $1 seal, which is gonna be hanging on my wall somewhere at some point, or maybe I'll make a little necklace out of it. This is the seal that is causing what would be about $10,000 of a bill at an independent shop once you replace all the little things that come along with this job. So that is the world of cars, guys. They all have issues. N54, you know all about this. You do. Don't pretend there's nothing wrong with you. You got like 12 lights on the dash, all right? So don't give me that little smirk. My cars, they talk to each other sometimes. But they all have problems, guys. This just happens to be the issue with this car. Yeah, I know. It's not your fault. Yes, you're going to get new guides. It's the next video. I'm taking the front cover up. Oh, yeah, sorry. These things talk to me. All right, I mean, I hear stuff that, and anyway, I'm going to end the video there before I lose any more of my mind. But there you have it. There is a teardown of a twin-turbo V12 AMG engine in search of a $1 part that could cost you between $7,000 and $10,000 to replace. So it's the best or nothing, and German engineering at its finest, or what we call on this channel a big old factory defect. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget, hit the thumbs up button, share the video with your friends and family. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's right down there, it's free. Subscribe, you're done. And stay tuned for the next one. We're gonna be tearing more into the engine. We're gonna be cleaning stuff. I don't know what else we're going to be doing right now. I kind of just want to take a nap. But make sure to tune in. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at LegitStreetCars. And most importantly, have an awesome day. And I'll catch all of you in the next video.